Welcome back to Sports Talk Saturday. We kick off today's show with some local sports news. 20-year-old fencer Kiria Tikiana recently qualified for the Tokyo Olympics, and I'm glad to have her on my show today. Hi, Kiria. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing very well.
I know you are in quarantine at the moment.
Yes.
Which day is it at the moment?
It's only the third day. I have about 11 more days to go.
11 more days. How are you keeping yourself busy and occupied?
I actually have an exam in a couple of days' time, so I'm spending a lot of my time studying.
Yeah.
So after my exams, I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
Is that just a one-day exam or?
No, I actually have two. So one of my exams is tomorrow on Saturday, and another one will be on Tuesday.
Okay. We'll be talking all about that in a bit. First of all, congratulations very much in terms of qualifying for the Olympics. You must be over the moon. So I'm not going to ask you how you feel, but the question I'm going to pose to you is, who did you call first when you realized you qualified for the Olympics?
I didn't really have time to call anyone because I was pulled into the anti-doping test immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But my head coach was there, so I was spending some time with him. And then after that, when I was in for my anti-doping, I was talking to my dad.
I want to ask you about the mindset you were in at that moment, knowing that you're going to be representing the country in the Olympics. What was going through your mind at that time?
During the competition, actually, in hindsight, I realized I didn't really think about the qualification. I guess I was just too focused on my fencing that I didn't really think about much else. I think it was only during the finals when it was at 14-12 and we took the minute break. That was when I realized like, oh, I'm actually only 1 point away from the Olympics. But then all these thoughts quickly went away when the match resumed. So that's why when you watch the match again, there's like a split second between when I scored the last point and I actually screamed, because it took me quite a while to realize what actually happened. Yeah. I was just caught off guard that I didn't realize that it's actually happening.
That's amazing, isn't it? Must be one of the moments in your life and in your career that you'll never forget, I suppose.
Yes.
You know, talking about your father, he also mentioned in a media interview that you had to work very hard to prepare for this tournament. What was your training regime like during this time? And what did you had to go through to prepare for this moment?
I think it goes back all the way to last year when the games was first postponed and, everything was so uncertain. We continued to train in any way that we could, but with the restrictions of circuit breaker, our fencing classes had to be moved online, so we had to adapt. And since we couldn't meet each other to fence, we focused more on improving our physicality and how to make better tactical choices. And we also worked on some psychology as well, so like how to maintain that level of focus throughout an entire competition. So after that, when some of the restrictions were relaxed after the circuit breaker, and we could go back to training, I went back to the gym at the Singapore Sports Institute SSI, and I also went back to my club for like actual fencing training. So from that time until now, I try to go to the gym at least 3 times or at least twice. So depending on my school schedule, because I'm also studying. And I also try to fence at least 4 to 5 times a week.
Talking about that, you mentioned you're still studying. You are in NUS doing chemistry.
Yes.
And where do you find time to train, study, and even have a social life? You're only 20.
I think everyone knows that you need good time management skills. Having to put in so many hours training and studying and catching up with friends and family, there really isn't much time to do anything else. So, but I think what is oftentimes overlooked by many people is learning to manage their expectations. So I'm not saying that we should expect less from yourself, but rather I think that as important as it is to set high goals, it is also important that these goals are achievable for you. So as much as I do really want to be a straight A student, and I try my best to be one, it doesn't always work out. But I understand that, this is part of the sacrifices that I have to make should I want to pursue my fencing career. And I think it also goes both ways for in terms of academics and fencing. So managing my expectations really helped me to not be so hard myself. And being able to prioritize well was also important.
That's interesting. Imagine an Olympian and straight A's. You got your
that would be the dream.
For you. Yeah, of course. But let's talk about your journey to Tashkent, because you went there ranked as the 207th in the world. Yeah. Knowing that you were going to face fencers with a higher ranking in that, what was your state of mind like? I mean, the reality is 207 to qualify for the Olympics. I mean, that's a big, big achievement.
I mean, like I said earlier, my coach and I, we did a lot of preparations beforehand. So we knew who our opponents were going to be. And I went into the competition as the 6th seed, as we expected. And of course, we were expecting tougher competitors. But we have prepared mentally for that as well. And I mean, the silver lining of like having higher ranked competitors was that we could find matches of them online because they tend to do well in international competitions. So, we could like dig up some videos of them fencing to know what to expect. And I think that was really one of the biggest contributors to our mental preparation. And having watched their past matches, we knew some of their habits and quirks. So at least I didn't feel like I went into the competition blind, which I think would have been much more nerve-wracking for me. So yeah, the rankings didn't impact as much as it would have.
In your last combat, you faced world number 97, Ulania Balanskaya from Kazakhstan in a tight EP that you won 15-13. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That was pretty close, isn't it? I mean, looking at the points, was it as close as it really suggests, or what was that like?
I think at this level of competition, the scores are always going to be that close. So it's very rarely that we get to win by a huge margin because everyone is of a certain caliber. So at a certain level, especially at this qualifiers level, it was always going to be very close. Especially even when you see Amita fans, the finals, it was 15-14. It was always going to be very, very close for every match.
I like to get into the head of high performance athletes, especially when it comes, they call it the crunch moment, right? Was there a crunch moment in that combat where you felt that was the moment that I was going to win? Did you have that feeling, or was there a moment during that whole, I would say, combat?
For me personally, I don't really feel that way most of the time. Especially during the finals match, I was actually trailing by 2 points at 6-8. So that was really a test of my mental fortitude. My opponent getting so excited that she was leading. And at that point in time, my mind was filled with so much uncertainty that I was thinking to myself that she's only got 8 points out of 15. We're only halfway there. It's still going to be anyone's game. So fortunately, after that, I managed to get the next 2 points to level the score to 8-8. Then we scored some double hits to bring the score to 12-12. And I could see at that point she was really nervous. I mean, she was the higher ranked fencer between us. So the pressure was on her, not me.
I love that. All right, we're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we continue this conversation.
Health Matters with Daniel Martin. Always keeping you in touch with the latest on COVID-19.
This is all what happens when you get overwhelmed. Everything breaks down. And unfortunately, we're seeing that in every aspect of care in India at the moment.
Just as the CDC has come up with that statement, I think the link between vaccines and potentially lethal side effects is not strong.
Weekdays 4 and 10 p.m. and weekends 3 and 8 p.m. here on CNA 938.
Asia Business. It's all the business news you need.
I think next to benefit could be the consumer-related sectors as well as industrials.
From an award-winning travel agency to an empty office.
There is going to be a revival. That pent-up demand will be unleashed.
The banks might be forced to sell some of their treasury holdings.
One of it was, of course, all the travel restrictions, which meant that we couldn't get foreign labor coming in.
Asia Business, 35 minutes past the hour, and as news breaks, weekdays on CNA 938.
Welcome back. You're listening to Sports Talk Saturday. I'm joined on the show by Kiriya Tinaka, national fencer who will be heading to the Olympics in Tokyo. Kiriya, just before the break, we were talking about the event, of course, in Tashkent. I want to look at and ask you this, right? When you look at all the sacrifices you have put into your sport, trying to juggle, of course, going to school and competing, who do you think was there? I mean, who was the constant there? Of course, I suppose your family and all that. But besides that, your support system, who was there constantly for you, urging you on?
So, I mean, needless to say, it's my family. And after that, it was my coach, my personal coach. And another person that I want to credit is my strength and conditioning coach, Kelvin, because he has been training with me at the gym since last year. And I think what he does for me is, it goes much further than just training me physically, but also he goes out of his way to help to find out more about how I'm doing with my fencing, how I'm performing during trainings, and how I feel. And he also kept it up with me even during the competition period as well. So that was really something that I felt was very comforting, to have someone that I know have trained me for very long and to be there supporting me and congratulating me even when I won.
How do you get paired with these coaches? How do you get connected with these coaches? Was it the association does that, or do you fix all of that? How does that work?
So Kelvin is actually one of the trainers at the Singapore Sports Institute gym. So when I first informed my association that I would like to train at that gym, then they linked me up with Kelvin. So since then, he's been taking care of all the fences as well. So I'm just one of his other students.
Nice one. You'll be representing Singapore at the Olympics alongside another fencer, Mita Bhatia, becoming the first female fencers in history to achieve that. How do you feel to be part of such a monumental moment?
Yeah, I mean, congrats to Amita as well. We were just talking after the competition, and we were sharing about how excited we were to be traveling to Tokyo to compete together. At least we have each other at Olympics, so that will be comforting for us. And I'm just very happy that some of us have managed to qualify for the Olympics this summer, whether it be me or any of the other Singapore fencers. I think it's just so exciting for the entire fencing community in Singapore. Fencing is not a common and well-known sport like swimming or table tennis, so the community is definitely smaller than others. But having showed that this small pool of fencers is capable of producing Olympians, I think it represents the amount of work that goes on behind from the association and from the coaches and fencers. And I just hope that Amita's qualification and mine would help other fencers realize that a dream that we once thought was so far-fetched is actually nearer than we think.
Absolutely. Well said about that. Having two females at the Olympics is a major achievement for Fencing Singapore. And of course, like you mentioned, the sport across the country. What do you think will be the impact of the future of Singapore's fencing scene?
I hope more people will get to know about fencing in general, and that it's not all just poke and stab. There's so much more to it than that. I just hope we can garner more support from the larger community for the fencing scene in Singapore itself. So within the fencing community in Singapore, I hope that the younger fencers will take inspiration to work towards their goals and achieve things that they never thought was possible.
How can somebody pick up fencing? I mean, how did you pick up fencing?
I picked up fencing at a very young age, at about 7 or 8. I was working at a shopping center, and then, I stumbled upon a fencing club. And then I tried it out for a few weeks, and I loved it. And then it just happened like this. I just continued training, and I made the national team. I slowly competed overseas, and I'm where I am today. Yeah, So I think there are many ways to start fencing. If you want, you can look for clubs, fencing clubs in Singapore. There are quite a few. Or if you're still a student, there are some schools that offer fencing as a discipline. So that would be another alternative.
My good friend, former national fencer Nicholas Fung, I always tease that, I tease him that, hey, where is fencing? Like, where can I go and fence? And why would anybody fence? So we have this banter back and forth, but I'm pretty sure he'll be reminding me very quickly that fencers have made it to the Olympics, as opposed to footballers, right? But what are you looking forward to at the Olympics? Because you do know that the best in the world congregate there. What are you expecting, and what kind of experience you're looking forward to?
To be honest, I'm not really expecting a lot. I think a medal would be too much to ask for now, especially
Why?
I'm the lowest ranked.
You've done the most impossible thing. Now, why don't you go all the way?
I think, managing expectations it'll be amazing if I could, win in the first place. But I think for now, I just really want to prepare myself well and to enjoy the experience of just competing in the Olympics with so many other world-class fencers.
Do you think it's a way of you not putting pressure on yourself and maybe also setting some sort of expectation? Because if you went out there and say, I'm going to come back with a gold medal, is that too much pressure on yourself?
Yes, definitely. I don't want to put more pressure than there already is from everyone. So I just want to do well, fence well, and if all goes well, I can win a few matches.
Can you let me know a secret? What's your innermost objective?
My innermost objective
Yeah.
for the Olympics?
For the Olympics, yeah. Something that you won't tell anybody. You can tell me on this show.
I'm going to tell everyone on this show.
There's only about 200,000 people listening to this, but that's okay.
It's quite hard to say, actually. For this Olympics, I just really want to win at least one match, honestly. Yeah, because I'm coming in as the lowest ranked center. So at some point in time along the journey, I have to fence the number one seed, which is the number one in the world. So I'm really not expecting a lot from that. But I just want to, put up a good fight. Hopefully I don't lose too badly. Yeah, and show that, Singapore is an up and coming country that, the fencing community worldwide should look out for.
And how's your preparation coming up for Tokyo? When are you looking to leave? What's the next plans after your quarantine and exam, of course?
We were actually discussing about the plan for the next few months and weeks to come. So with school ending soon, I have more time freed up. So I can put more hours at the gym and at the club for fencing and sparring. So progressively more training hours and also more time for recovery, especially because I will be training more. As to when I'll be leaving, I'm not quite sure. Maybe about a week or so before the actual event day. Yeah.
All right, Kyria, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. I wish you the very best. We are very proud of what you have already achieved and keep the flag flying in Tokyo for us.
Thank you so much.